last contested consent item is going to be item 1P. This is pulled by Councilmember Bredefeld, but it's sponsored by 3 other members. I'm not sure who wants to take the first bite.
Councilmember Bredefeld, do you want to make a motion to approve?
I think I'll pass on that one, but I'm going to toss it to whoever wants to address it first.
Yeah, well, Councilmember Bredefeld, I know you pulled it, but as you recall, the conversation that we had last time was with regards to compensation, and we obviously did an analysis, and when we were working towards that, we tied it to Board of Supervisors at that time. I think on my end, what has been pretty evident based on the pandemic and everything that we've seen is that this is not a part-time job. You know, as many people know, council members work 12 to 14 hours. I know you do too as well when there's an issue you're very passionate about. And so we felt we wanted to bring this forward and have it considered by the whole council. It's my last term. I know it's your last term, and this is kind of this cohort's last term. My hope is that in the future we attract highly qualified professional candidates for the position. And who knows, maybe we'll get lucky and get another psychologist from District 6 in the future. But with that, happy to answer any questions that you might have, or maybe if you just want to make your statements. I know we've done some media interviews, and I think people know where we're at.
Okay. So I don't want to interrupt. Do you guys want to? Okay, then I'll go. You know, we did just raise the salaries. I believe it was 65 to 80,000 3 years ago. So our salaries are 80,000. We have a $5,000 stipend, bringing the total to 85,000, which I think is very fair. I think we're compensated really quite well. To receive that raise, last time, you had to win an election, and you had people, when you were running, knew that you supported or didn't support that raise, which I think was very important. When I ran, people knew that I had supported, and I did support it. And so you got judged on that. In this situation, we do have some council members supporting this that were just elected, but the voters did not know that they were actually going to bring this forward, which I think is unfair to the voters. I think the voters have a right to know, since they're the ones funding these salaries, that in fact these council members were going to support it if they're going to support it. And so I think that's dishonest to their constituents, and I think for that reason alone, it shouldn't even be happening. I do want to address the fact that this is nearly 70% pay hike, which is pretty extraordinary as far as I'm concerned. We do have something called the Transparency Act, which is based on looking at benchmark cities. And if you would put that up, Brianna, because I want to share with the public these benchmark cities that we look at. So I don't know how well, there you go, a little higher, where you can show that. Fresno currently, you can see in the middle graph, it gets $80,000 for council members. Now that's fifth currently between those benchmark cities that include Anaheim, Bakersfield, Long Beach, Oakland, Riverside, Sacramento, San Diego, San Jose, Santa Ana, and Stockton. If we do this $135,000 raise, which is $55,000, nearly a 70%, we would go to the second place, which would be even higher than San Diego. Now, San Diego has 1.4 million people that council members are elected from and oversee in terms of policies and issues related to their population. We have about 550,000, but we would go to $135,000 more than the San Diego council members, with approximately a third less the population. That doesn't make sense. That is not a fair analysis in terms of what you ought to be paid based on just the population alone. And if you look at some of the other populations, for example, Sacramento, there's 524,000. They're getting paid $98,000. We would be going to 135. Oakland's got 440,000 people. They're paid 104,000. Long Beach has got 466,000 people, and they're making $45,000 a year. So I think the proposal is an outrageous one. Makes no sense. And when we look at it from a transparency and benchmark analysis, it makes no sense. If you'd put up the next chart. Now, this one I think is even more significant. This shows, and we did an analysis of all the median household incomes in the different districts. And if you could make that a little smaller so you could see. Okay, not too small, but. So if you look at basically, first of all, for Fresno, the entire city of Fresno, the household median income is $53,000. $53,000. This raise of $55,000 would be a raise bigger than the average household median income. For the entire household of someone's income in Fresno, on average, this salary increase would be more significant than that. And if you look at the different districts, you look at, for example, District 3, the average household median income is $30,000. You look at the other ones, it's approximately 50. So based on just doing an analysis of what people have as income in our city, the very people that we represent, it's dramatic. The raise itself is larger than their total income in their homes. People are struggling. They have difficulty putting food on the table. They can't pay gas. And the message we're sending here is that we're going to take your taxpayer dollars and we're going to put it in our pocket even though you're struggling, because $85,000 isn't enough for us. We think we should be making $135,000. And what they want to do is tie this to the Board of Supervisors. Now, the Board of Supervisors are making $135,000, and their chair, the chairman of the board, is making $151,000. Now, I think those salaries, frankly, are outrageous. I've always felt they were outrageous. And what they've done there, the little scam they've had there since 1994, is they tie their salaries to judges. So they never have to take a vote. They never have to take the tough vote and face the voters as to raising their salaries. What they did in 1994 is every time judges get a salary increase, which they do, their salaries have gone up. So they've gone up dramatically. So they're making $135,000, and they never have to take a vote before their voters. They also receive a retirement plan, and they also have no term limits over at the board. They can raise money with no limits on the amounts. And so they've created a very nice, cushy job for themselves over there. Now, we have members here who feel, appropriately so, that we do as much work, if not more, than the Board of Supervisors. Now, whether that's true or not, they can debate it, we can debate it. But because there's one wrong doesn't mean we create another wrong. Two wrongs don't make a right. I think we learned that as kids. So we really should be fixing their salaries and the little scam they've got going on there, not joining them. And that's what this proposal is. This proposal is to join the scam, to continue the ripoff of the taxpayers and not be held accountable for these votes, like we did 3 years ago. And the fact is, the cost of this raise to the taxpayers, if you figure out 55,000 times 7, which eventually, not everybody immediately will get it, but down the road everybody will get it who runs for office, is $385,000 a year every year once this goes into effect. Now, that's the cost of a lot of 911 dispatchers, police officers, student resource officers, but it's more taxpayer money that's going to go into the politicians' pockets rather than services for the people. Now, are the salary increases justified? I don't think so. When we look at the analysis just on benchmark, when we look at the analysis of what the median income for households are, it's not justified. But the other thing I think it's not justified is when we look at what the council has done over the last several years, when it shut down businesses, when it fined them, and there was about $80,000 of fines as people tried to stay open so they could pay their taxes, so that we could collect the taxes, we were fining them, shutting them down, and throwing people out of work. And as a result, these people had to rely on government to survive because of the actions of this council and state government. Now, this council also supported, I didn't, but this council did, all the destructive school closures that took place that left children academically behind, socially isolated, struggling with all kinds of mental health issues. I don't think that should be rewarded. This council closed gyms, they closed golf courses, they closed city parks so the children couldn't play, the adults couldn't exercise. Keys to staying healthy physically and psychologically and fighting COVID if it was contracted. I've also highlighted the fact that there's been misuse with city credit cards, and there has been hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, from lavish meals, tens of thousands of dollars for flyers being sent out to people's homes, constituents, slick brochures with the intent of using staffers on the taxpayer dime to walk to their homes to deliver them, campaign materials bought with taxpayer money and city credit cards, parties celebrating becoming council president, complete misuse of taxpayer money, violating oaths to be good stewards of taxpayer money. I could go on, and trust me, I could go 10 more minutes discussing the misuse and waste of taxpayer money. Now, is our job as council members challenging and difficult? It certainly is. Do we all work long hours and come up with and get much criticism for the things we do? Yeah, we do. But we all knew that. I knew that running. I am a clinical psychologist, retired now, but I had a thriving private practice. I worked at the VA, and I sacrificed knowing full well there would be sacrifices financially to come here. But I have a desire to serve, and that's what this is about. You come here to serve. You don't come here to make money. If you're coming here to make a big fat salary, you're coming here for the wrong reasons. And this is about service, public service, and serving our neighbors and doing what we can to improve the city. We get paid a very fair salary to do this job. $85,000 is a very fair salary to do this job, and it's commensurate with other cities. So I can't support this. I really encourage our council members. This is for introduction. It'll be an adoption, I guess, in 30 days. It's wrong on so many levels. We shouldn't be joining the scam that's going on at the county because that's wrong. Two wrongs, as I said, don't make a right. The salary increases are clearly not justified. And I think if you listen to the public, once the public becomes more aware of this, they too will be outraged. And so it's my hope that council changes course, that if you decide you want an increase, it is commensurate with other benchmark cities, and that you have to run after you've made that vote so that taxpayers can determine whether they think what you did was right or not after you've won, and then you come and say, I'm going to reward myself with a $55,000 increase. That's wrong on so many levels. So for that reason, I'm not going to support it, and I hope the council reconsiders, and I also hope that if the council doesn't, that the mayor will do everything in his power to veto it, whether it's a 6-1 vote, 5-2 vote, or 4-3 vote, to convince 2 other people not to support this, because this is just completely wrong.
Appreciate that, Councilmember Bredefeld. And I think, you were there last time when we did a raise and you supported the raise increase. We had this conversation before. We were both colleagues on there. I just want to address something briefly that you mentioned because I don't want the impression of folks to even have the perception that somehow people were trying to be dishonest. I think during the course of a campaign, we get a lot of questions. We go to forums, community meetings, and things of that sort. But there's no way that everything's going to be covered in that conversation. I'm sure if, people in your district when you ran the first time would have known where you stood on the LGBT issue, maybe they might not have voted for you too, right? So there's no way of actually conveying every single position that you can take. But we agree to disagree on this. I think the amount of work that's put in by us is commensurate to what, and even more what the Board of Supervisors do there. And we'll agree to disagree today on this. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item notice for introduction. That'll come back, but I want to make the motion to approve.
Second. Councilmember Carbasia, how do you punch that? You're one of the sponsors.
Yeah, no, I work closely with Councilmember Bredefeld, and I respect his comments. I totally understand that when gas is above $6 a gallon, it sounds almost crazy to be able to bring a proposal forward. Now, whether this passes or not, I will not get paid a dollar more. My salary stays the same regardless. The problem is oftentimes we are on the losing end of votes because, and don't want to open old wounds here, but my aim in doing this is when you ask someone who has an advanced degree or you ask someone that's a working professional, maybe has a couple of kids, leave your career and come to this full-time job, which is an honor to serve, they still have to pay their mortgage. They still have to save up for their kids' college. And $85,000 a year, I'm sorry, but it's just not enough to attract the high caliber person we want to make tough decisions to actually raise average salaries and bring more employers forward in this community. And I really think that we need to do something to attract people to be able to come here. Look, the fact of the matter is, and I don't think the mayor's going to veto this. I really don't. It's up to the mayor to decide that. But the fact of the matter is, the average salary in the mayor's office is $115. The average salary in the city manager's office is $192 a year. So we are not asking for anything that's ludicrous, although it sounds that way because of the gas prices. The reality is, if you want to raise the quality of candidates that run for public office, you have to make it possible for them to leave their career to do this job. It's very difficult for people to do that. We were able to do that, and that's great, but we need more support up here. So with that, I'm ready to move forward.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. I don't see anyone punched up. Oh. Okay, Councilman Bredefeld, sorry.
And again, I respect my colleague, Councilman Corbasi, as well as Chavez. But the argument that we have to raise salary to get more quality people, one suggests that because we have $85,000 a year, we don't have quality people. I would certainly dispute that. And secondly, all we have to do is look at some of the people who get very big salaries in Congress. I would argue the one we got in the White House, and they get lots of money, and we don't have quality people there. So I don't think it's about money to attract quality people. It's about service. It's about the heart you have to serve. And it isn't if I get $135,000, all of a sudden a quality person is going to get off from work and say, you know what, okay, that's enough money now I can do it. They know what's involved in serving. You're going to be attacked, and people will try to cancel you if you express your point of view, especially if it's one that they don't agree with. And no amount of money is going to ease that. The fact is, you have to have a passion for this. You have to have a strong passion to want to serve and to come up here and to knock on people's doors and to be asked where you stand. And it doesn't change a whole lot if it's $135,000. The only thing that changes is that these politicians get more money in their pocket and they take it off the table and the pockets of the taxpayers. And that's what goes on here. And unfortunately, it goes on too much. So I respectfully differ with my colleague on that. We need quality people to run because they have a heart for it, not because they're seeking a check.
For the record, I do think you're a high-quality public servant.
And for the record, I feel the same way about you.
Why don't you guys hug it out right now? Councilmember Arias, you're punched up.
Thank you, Council President. Just want to, speak on this item. So when I was in the school district, you besides commanding a salary that the market supports, you also get to earn credits towards a pension. When I came to City Council, I took a 50% pay cut on just the salary and completely zeroed out my pension. So for 8 years, I do not contribute 1 penny to Social Security or my pension. 8 years that I have to figure out how to make up after my service on the City Council. I thought coming in that it would be a part-time job. That's how it was described. It's a part-time job, that's why there's no pension. But the reality was, within a few months, I realized that the community expects you to be at every event, 5 evenings a week, every event on the weekend, have dozens of budget and neighborhood meetings. The departments provide you this for 1 council meeting on top of a dozen budget hearings. And I find myself on this dais on a Thursday also participating in the League of California Cities committee meeting where we're rewriting the taxation code for the state. trying to be at two places at the same time. It's not just a 14-hour workday. It's not just the weekends and evenings. That doesn't even account for the death threats and the changes you have to make to where you live and how you live, because folks not only come to your house, but they come here and they wait for you in the parking lot, and they threaten and they track and, follow your kids around. And they show up and videotape your kids at their school while they're in recess. It is a completely different task for the fifth largest city. Just in the pandemic, we had 75 events to distribute masks, vaccinate people, distribute food. My counterparts and supervisors had 0 events in the pandemic. In my 4 years, my supervisor has not had 1 community meeting. When we look at compensation for our employees, we don't look at what the firefighter in San Diego is making or Long Beach. We look at what the firefighter at Fresno County is making. This year, we voted to make our police officers the highest paid in the Central Valley based on a raise that the Board of Supervisors gave sheriff deputies. That's who our competition is for talent. It's across the street. So when the administration proposes salary increases, when the union requests salary increases, it's always based on your local context. The supervisors have given a 20% raise. We have to respond, or else we lose our talent. So our firefighters are the highest paid in the valley. Our police officers are the highest paid in the valley. Our department heads are some of the highest paid in the valley. And in the past, just to give you an idea, our city manager's compensation was $475,000. Our airport's director's compensation, $350,000. Our former police chief, $347,000. And that's because they get to pull down not just a pension, but retire once, retire twice, retire 3 times, and continue to generate money for the retirement. It's called the famous drop program. We don't get to contribute to Social Security, much less to a pension, much less retire 2 or 3 times to continue to build up a retirement. So I don't take this lightly, not only because of the folks that I serve, but because I know that to do this job well, you not only have to read the 10 inches of documents that the department heads provide you, you have to be present every evening and every weekend. In the world of social media, we're responding to Facebook messages at 11 o'clock at night over a tree being vandalized at Dickey Park or racing taking place on Jensen Avenue. It's not the part-time job that was advertised or was suggested. It is a 14-hour workday that requires you to stop contributing to your own retirement and puts you at significant harm for one's family and oneself. And for the next person who takes on this work, my advice to them is be prepared to put your family on hold for 8 years if you do this work. And be prepared to put your financial security on hold for 8 years. And that has the potential of leaving us with a very small group of individuals that can serve in this body. Those who are older, those who are retired, and those who have financial security. You won't be able to get somebody who is struggling to get by or who has college debt. You won't be able to get somebody who has a pulse with the people that they serve. So I don't make this I don't take this lightly. It's significant, but asking somebody to serve should not come at the expense of their financial security or their physical safety. And that's why today I'll be supportive of this item moving forward.
Any additional comments? Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Council President, if I could interject, I just wanted to explain that right now the ordinance is being considered for introduction, and per the council rules, at introduction, the vote, you may take a vote, you are not required to take a vote. So it's permissive in the council rules, but
We understand that, Rena. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we're going to call a vote, I think. Yeah, we're gonna call a vote. Yeah, I agree a lot with my colleagues in terms of this being very much a full-time job. It's not something where you get to clock out at 5 p.m. and turn off. It's really more than a job. It's a lifestyle, and something that we enjoy. We enjoy the service, as my colleague had pointed out. So it is very different. Public service is to some degree a sacrifice, but as you heard from one of my other colleagues, there's no pension associated with this particular position. And so folks who get elected here are sacrificing 4 to 8 years of their 4 to 8 of their working years without building that up. So really kind of a bigger picture here. I think as Councilmember Carbasi alluded to, we'll see some of these races change in the future and different folks step up. In my economics courses, I teach, we talk about opportunity cost, right? And the opportunity cost for some folks to serve in a position like this, it tends to be too high of a cost to be able to step away from what they're doing in the private sector or at another agency, and to be able to provide the public with their good ideas and serve in this type of capacity. So again, I appreciate my colleagues bringing this forward. And with that, we have Councilmember Carbasi. Did you punch up? Or was that an
Yeah,
accident?
just look, to run a $2 billion budget requires the best and the brightest, and I hope the next council member for District 2 who will actually get this raise will be of that caliber.
Okay. All right. Clerk, please call the roll.
Certainly. Item 1P for introduction, Chavez motion. Vice President Maxwell made the second. Councilmember Soria.
Council President, we didn't go out to the public, or did we?
Already did.
So
we did.
this is a consent item, so the public
okay.
the public had an opportunity to speak about this item.
Perfect. No.
Councilmember Carbasi.
Yes.
Councilmember Arias.
Yes.
Councilmember Chavez.
Yes.
Councilmember Bredefeld.
No.
Vice President Maxwell.
Aye.
And Council President Esparza.
Aye. Item passes 6-1.
5-2.
5-2?
Yeah. Soria and Bredefeld.
I'm just so used to the reflex. 5-2. All right. So that's item 1P. That concludes contested consent agenda.